Hey guys, thanks for tuning in to ForgottenWeapons.com. I'm Ian McCollum, and I have a very cool announcement today. But you know what's cool? Battle rifles are cool. And you know what's surprisingly not well documented in good books? Battle rifles. There are books out there that cover specific niche areas, but there's not much out there, like there's not anything out there that gives you an overview of all of the major battle rifles. And we figured that would be a really cool book to produce. So we did it. So this is a type of rifle that comes out of the United States and Western Europe during the Cold War. There are guns that were adopted by the Western democratic armies in the 1950s and served basically through the 1970s and into the 80s, at which point most of NATO and its associated adjacent forces, countries, transitioned to the smaller caliber intermediate assault rifles. The assault rifles, like the entire Soviet-led Eastern Bloc had used throughout the entire Cold War. Like, the Soviet side of the Cold War pretty much just bypassed the battle rifle completely, leaving it as an iconic thing of NATO, of Western democracies in Europe and the United States. Now, there never was, of course, the ultimate World War III battles across the plains of Germany, and so instead, these rifles typically saw their combat use in far-flung brush wars and small conflicts, and so that's where we see a lot of images of them. But these are all rifles that originated in Europe and the United States to a lesser degree, and were intended specifically to defend Europe, which in part, they successfully did by not having to actually fight World War III. Anyway, James Rupley and I thought this would be a really cool book to put together, and so that's exactly what we did. And we are announcing today Small Arms of the Cold War, Battle Rifles of NATO. I'm really excited about it. There are a ton of cool guns in here. We've got more than 60 different variations of battle rifle in the book. James and I did a whole bunch of traveling to get the photography for this book, and every gun in this book is an authentic original rifle. There are no clones, there are no builds. These are all the real deal. So what specifically do we cover? Well, we start with a chapter on precursors, the origins, the history of the battle rifle. We look at guns like the Mondragon and the Fedorov that started this concept, some of the attempts to use them during World War I, notably the French RSC rifles, and then their use during World War II, where Germany, the United States, and the Soviet Union all successfully developed and fielded battle rifles in significant quantities. Battle rifles like the M1 Garand. With that contextual background in place, we then move on to the first of the patterns of actual NATO battle rifles. And we start with the FAL, developed in Belgium, adopted by so many different people. It was called the right arm of the free world. Our coverage includes paratrooper guns, snipers, heavy-barreled support versions of the FAL, and of course, the different variations of the FAL that were adopted across Europe, as well as the United States. We have a whole section on American FALs in there as well. Really cool stuff. Not playing favorites with the order that we put these guns in, moving on from the FAL, we then come to the G3 family. We actually begin this look at this family of rifles with the SETME Model A, developed by German engineers in Spain, and then moving through the SETME C, the German adoption trials, and then adoption of the G3 by a variety of countries throughout NATO. Again, like the FAL, there are a bunch of different versions, although not quite as much variety in G3s as there was in FALs, but lots of neat stuff. We have a lot of developmental trials versions of the G3 family in the book. Yeah, I know my camo game isn't quite perfect here, but we're having fun. So carrying on, once we get done with the FAL and the G3, of course, we can't leave out the United States and the M14. And our M14 chapter in the book covers not just the M14, but other M1 Garand-derived rifles like the BM59 as well. This is a slightly smaller chapter. There aren't a ton of people who adopted the M14, but we've got some cool extra variations of the M14. We have the M14E1, M14E2, the M21 sniper in the book. And that pretty well rounds out with the BM59, that pretty well rounds out the M14 family. Of course, it would not be a battle rifle book if it didn't include the most futuristic and cool of all of the Cold War battle rifles, and that of course is the AR-10. And we cover the development of the AR-10, we cover its testing in US service, and the whoopsie kaboom that kind of ended its testing in US service, but then also its continued development and eventual adoption by specifically the Portuguese in NATO service. Again, it's a short chapter, but we have a couple of different very cool variations of the AR-10 in the book as well. Surely you didn't think that I, of all people, would do a book on battle rifles and leave out the French, did you? Of course not. The French copy no one copies the French, and that's pretty much true in their battle rifles in this case. So this is our first chapter where the guns are not all in 7.62 NATO caliber, because of course the French sort of adopted 7.62 NATO for some machine guns, but opted not to go to it for their standard infantry rifles. And we talk about what went into that decision, as well as, of course, the whole sequence of French battle rifles of the direct gas impingement Mauser family. So those are all in there. Of course, there's a section on the RSCs during World War I in our Precursors chapter as well, but we have to have the French, of course. And now my camo game is on point, but my rifle game is slacking, because we round off all of these with a final chapter on others, miscellaneous rifles that didn't fit into any of the major families. So here we're going to have some really cool guns that never actually saw service, like the EM2 Bullpup, or rifle number 9, the Danish LAR from the Madsen Company, Danes, as well as some of the other rifles out there like the Youngman, the AG-42 Youngman, which is in fact a battle rifle, saw service during the Cold War, although Sweden was not a NATO member at that point. And of course guns like the Swiss Sturmgewehr 57, which is absolutely a battle rifle, but again, the Swiss weren't actually part of NATO. They were an independent country, but they could certainly see who their allies were going to be and who they wanted to side with should World War III kick off in Central Europe. So those are the guns that we're so excited to bring to you guys in our new book, Small Arms of the Cold War, Battle Rifles of NATO. It's not specifically only NATO, it is NATO and adjacent countries in Western Europe. For each of these, for all of these throughout the whole book, of course, you get James Rupley's magnificent and really, truly unparalleled firearms photography, showing you all the details, all the nuances of each one of these guns. And as I said earlier, these are all original, proper, intact factory guns. There are no parts kits, there are no home builds, there are no clones, nothing like that. We went to factories and collections and museums across 6 different countries throughout the United States and Europe to get you the original proper guns for this book. It comes in at over 460 pages, 60 guns. It's 11 by 13 inches, so it's a big full-size similar to the World War II series. Actually, it's the exact same dimensions as the World War II series that we are also working on at the same time here. We are expecting delivery to our warehouse in November, although obviously it's a little hard to predict that, especially with all the global trade turmoil going on. We have standard version of the book, starts at $125. We also have signed versions, signed by me, as well as a cool commemorative slipcase that you can get in any combination. If you want a signed version with the slipcase, that's going to be the most expensive, but we can do just a slipcase or just a signature or just a standard book. Hopefully at this point you're as excited about this book as I am. I'm really thrilled to be able to launch this. It's been a lot of fun putting it together. It's been a long time in the works. Click on the link in the description text below, take you over to Headstamp Publishing's website where you can sign up for the pre-order. If you are in Europe, we are also, as we've done on previous books, going to be shipping out of a secondary warehouse in Europe as well, so that helps us to control shipping cost and also customs fees and tariffs going into Europe. That's all integrated into the website. You'll see it there. Again, link in the description text below. Yeah, we're super stoked about this one. It's a really cool subject, and hopefully you guys are excited about it as well. Thanks for watching.